On the morning of April 26, 1986, a young schoolteacher in the city of Pripyat walked to her kitchen window and watched the sun rise over the river. It was a Saturday. Spring had come after a long winter, and the birch trees along the embankment were finally budding. The city's amusement park was scheduled to open the following week in celebration of May Day, and the children in her building had talked of almost nothing else for a month. She had less than 36 hours to leave this city forever. She did not know it. Nobody in Pripyat did. It is the morning of April 26, 1986. The city is awake and ordinary and already dying. To the south, above the tree line, a thin column of smoke rises from the direction of the nuclear station. Some of her neighbors have mentioned it in passing. A fire at the station. It will be handled. Then, in the early hours of that morning, reactor number 4 of the Lenin nuclear power station had torn itself apart. Pripyat, Ukrainian Soviet Socialist Republic. Population, 49,400. Founded in 1970, purpose-built for the workers of the station 9 kilometers to the south. It is one of the newest cities in the Soviet Union, with an average resident age of 26. A city of young families, of children, of plans. The explosion had happened at 1:23 in the morning. The night shift at Reactor 4 had been running a long-delayed safety test when the reactor went into an uncontrolled chain reaction. 2 explosions followed, seconds apart. The second blew the reactor's 1,000-ton lid skyward and exposed the burning core to open air. Firefighters from Pripyat arrived within minutes. They had no radiation protection. They climbed onto the rooftops of the damaged buildings to fight fires with their hands. Some of them looked down into the broken reactor and saw a blue-violet glow, later understood as Cherenkov radiation, and described it as beautiful. By 4 in the morning, the first of them were vomiting. Their skin was reddening. Their mouths tasted of metal. 28 of the first responders died of acute radiation syndrome in the following months. The subsequent Soviet investigation established that the senior engineer on duty, Anatoly Dyatlov, continued to insist that the reactor had not exploded. He sent workers into areas of lethal radiation to search for components that no longer existed. This decision seemed small at the time. It was not. For the rest of the morning, Pripyat was a Saturday. The market opened. Children went out to play in the spring sunshine. A wedding reception was beginning somewhere in the city, planned months in advance, and nobody had said anything to cancel it. But the wind was carrying radioactive particles from the burning core across the city. Iodine-131 and cesium-137 were settling on rooftops and in playgrounds where children ran. At the station's medical unit, nurses were receiving the first firefighters and operators. One nurse later gave testimony to the oral historian Svetlana Alexievich, whose collected accounts of the disaster were published as Voices from Chernobyl in 1997. The nurse described injuries she had never seen before, injuries that attacked from within the body rather than from the skin surface. She did not know yet what had caused them. Everything was in place. The residents of Pripyat simply did not know what everything was building toward. By midday, military vehicles were appearing on the city's streets. Soldiers were taking up positions at the exits. In the Soviet Union, unusual things had explanations that were not offered to ordinary citizens. Life continued on the visible surface. But a government commission under Boris Sherbina, the deputy prime minister, had flown in from Moscow. Their convoy drove through the city toward the station, past the parks, past the children on their Saturday walks. Multiple accounts record that members of the commission looked out through their car windows at the children in the streets below. Nobody stopped the convoy. Nobody gave an order to bring the children inside. That was only round one of what Pripyat's residents did not yet understand about that day. The commission's readings at the station went off the scale. Some instruments simply could not register what was there. Parts of the site measured in the thousands of Röntgen per hour. In the city itself, radiation was elevated and rising, above safe limits, and invisible to anyone, without a dosimeter. That is not a typo. 49,000 people were moving through there Saturday in a city already saturated with the fallout from a nuclear catastrophe, and the people responsible for telling them had decided how to manage the information first. But the crisis was not done, not even close. In Pripyat's hospital, the city's only medical facility, staff were already receiving firefighters and station workers presenting with symptoms unlike anything in their clinical experience. Nausea that progressed to vomiting within hours, skin that reddened without heat. 2 physicians who worked in this facility later gave accounts to independent historians, describing the complete absence of any guidance from Soviet health authorities in those first critical hours. By early afternoon, a small crowd had gathered on the railway bridge to the south of the city. From the bridge, the broken reactor building was clearly visible, the smoke and steam still rising in a column above the trees. The fire had a strange beauty, visible for kilometers. People brought children to see it. Read those testimonies. Alexievich's collected accounts include people who stood on that bridge in the afternoon of April 26th. What they describe is the particular quality of invisible danger. The clear sky, the spring air, the extraordinary spectacle in the distance, and nothing at all to suggest that standing there in the open was anything but ordinary curiosity. Everything the residents trusted, their government, their institutions, the certainty that something this serious would be announced, was working against them now. The machinery of Soviet information control had already engaged. What the authorities knew and what the public knew were 2 entirely different things. By late afternoon, Shcherbina's commission had its answer. The city had to be evacuated. The question was no longer whether, but when, and how to do it in a way that did not trigger panic. The order went to Moscow. The Politburo approved. Approximately 1,200 buses were requisitioned from Kiev and the surrounding region. Soldiers took up their positions around the city perimeter. This was all happening in the evening hours of April 26th, while the residents of Pripyat cooked their dinners and put their children to bed. The school teacher had heard nothing official. In a Soviet city, the absence of official information was its own instruction. Be calm. Continue. The authorities were handling it. She went to sleep that night in her apartment on the street named after Lenin, as she had done every night before. By 10 in the morning on April 27th, the streets of Pripyat were quieter than a Sunday usually permitted. Military vehicles were parked along the main avenues. Uniformed men moved through the buildings. At the city's exits, checkpoints had appeared overnight. Something had shifted. You could sense it, though you could not name it. The announcement came over the city's public address system at approximately 1:10 in the afternoon. A calm, official voice. Residents were informed that, for reasons of safety, they should prepare for a temporary evacuation. They should take documents, essential medications, and supplies for approximately 3 days. Children should bring a small toy. They would return. The situation at the station was under control. That announcement exists in the historical record. It was broadcast to a city that had been inside the fallout of a nuclear catastrophe for 36 hours. The buses arrived at 2 in the afternoon, 1,200 of them, column after column along Pripyat's wide avenues. Residents came out of their buildings carrying bags, confused by the scale of it, already working out what 3 days away really meant. Pay attention to what they left behind, because it explains the city that exists in photographs today. They left everything. Photographs on walls, books open on tables, a bicycle propped by a door, food in refrigerators that would slowly spoil and dry over the years, keys on hooks, Calendars turned to April 1986. Up to this point, Pripyat had been a functioning city. That changed in the afternoon of April 27, 1986, and has not changed back. The evacuation moved with military efficiency. Column by column, the buses loaded and departed. Soldiers moved floor by floor through the apartment buildings. Pets were not permitted on the buses. The residents were not told they were leaving forever, so they left them. Way you leave for 3 days, with the ordinary certainty that the door you lock today, you will unlock again on Thursday. By approximately 5 in the afternoon on April 27, 1986, Pripyat was empty. 49,400 people had been evacuated in under 3 hours. One of the last soldiers to leave described turning off the city's electricity from a central switchboard, throwing bank after bank of switches, and watching the apartment windows go dark, one row at a time, across a city with no one left inside. The school teacher did not go back. Nobody went back as a resident. The exclusion zone now covers more than 2,600 square kilometers of Ukrainian and Belarusian territory. Researchers entering Pripyat in later years described finding apartments as they had been left. A sewing machine by a window, fabric still pinned to work in progress, cups in cupboards, a child's coat hanging by the door, as though someone had simply stepped outside for a moment. In the city's primary school, children's drawings remained pinned to the classroom walls for years after the evacuation. The ceiling came down in sections. The paint faded. The drawings held. The ones who were harmed most by what followed, who lost years to illness, who never understood what had happened to them on that Saturday, shared one thing with the city they left behind. They trusted the silence. They believed that the absence of a warning meant there was nothing to warn against. Pripyat had 36 hours from the moment reactor 4 broke until the moment the last light went out. The clock was running from 1:23 in the morning of April 26, 1986, and nobody in that city could hear it. Next time, we spend the last hours inside another city that did not see the end coming. Subscribe, and the door stays open.